Hey guys, excuse the mess as is normal. My place is kind of messy right now. Had a few thoughts I wanted to get down quickly in a video, and is actually something that to some extent has been requested by a friend of mine. Um, it's wonderful that we've got this science movement going on in social media where people are professing their love for science and the STEM fields and discoveries, research, engineering. These are all wonderful things, and it's great that people are embracing that, and not only embracing it personally, but sharing it with others. It's a beautiful, wonderful thing. Having said that, it's important to make a distinction between being a fan of things that you think are science and actually being a true, dedicated participant in the scientific process, or being somebody who truly espouses the perspective of one who is a true skeptic and a critical thinker. What I've noticed lately is that while there are many people who are being honest and really trying to learn how to look at the world around them with a sort of a skeptical eye, a critical thinking sort of curiosity, you get some people who have taken that and bastardized it. People who have made a mockery, in my mind, of what science really is. They've co-opted or hijacked this movement, and they've begun masquerading as though they are science enthusiasts when they're really not. What they really are they're fanboys or fangirls. They've turned science from a way of looking at the world, a thought process and a methodology. They've taken it and transformed it from that into a club. It's now really a thing for fans. It's become this. It's just in vogue to say you love science. There have been some articles written, actually rather scathing articles, recently by some pretty good authors who've covered this. But just because you like pretty pictures from space doesn't mean you love science necessarily. You just like pretty pictures. If you don't have an appreciation for the process that goes into it, the intense, measured thought and effort that have to be put into good experimentation, good studies, good teaching of scientific principles, and good communication of these discoveries that we make, then you're not really helping. So why am I talking about this? Well, I've recently become embroiled in a number of debates. I talk to people online a lot, and I get a lot of disagreements. Most of them are pretty friendly, but every once in a while they get kind of fired up. Well, I had a discussion with somebody recently regarding something in nutrition. And I've encountered many, many times people, ostensibly intelligent people, who claim to be critical thinkers and claim to be about, following what the evidence says and all. But when it comes to a field they don't actually know much about, they read bullet points. They read talking points just like the people that they like to condemn or criticize. They have become an example of the thing they claim to hate. And they don't see it because they've turned science, or they've turned evidence-based thinking into this ego thing where they always have to be right because they're in the right club. Well, I'm in the science club, and the science club says that all of this stuff is pseudoscience, so I'm just going to label it as pseudoscience. They talk about alternative medicine, and yeah, generally speaking, you can take the Tim Minchin approach and say, what do they call alternative medicine that works? Medicine. But there are certain gray areas, and unless you're at least willing to entertain the possibility that certain things haven't been researched enough yet and maybe need to be looked at more, and they might prove to be effective in some way, you're not really a skeptic. If you're not willing to look at something and be open to it, doesn't mean you have to accept that it's true, but be open to the possibility. You're not a true skeptic. A skeptic is not a person who just roundly condemns something or writes it off, dismisses an entire field because it appears to be wooey. That's not what a skeptic is. That's not what a scientist does. Not a good one. And I maintain that. I'll stand by that point of view. So, in terms of alternative medicine, and people like to spit out all kinds of things, whether it's, faith healing or Reiki or chiropractic or, acupuncture, what have you. We like to take something and label it And then once we've labeled it, we can categorize it 100% into this bin or that bin. Either it works or it doesn't. But sometimes your definitions break down. For instance, there are different types of acupuncture. And I've seen some evidence that shows that acupuncture can be perhaps better than placebo, depending on exactly how it's performed. Now, I'm going to be condemned by people when they hear me say that, but I'm just going by what I've seen in some of the research that has been done on it. Likewise, certain types of chiropractic, same thing. Not all chiropractic is created equal. And if you're not at least willing to entertain that notion, you're not a good skeptic. I don't care if you claim to be, if you think you are, because you follow all the rules and you have all the right opinions. Science is not a collection of opinions. Science is a way of evaluating the world around you and looking at what evidence tells you and drawing sensible conclusions from it. Speaking to the nutrition thing I mentioned earlier, somebody liked to say, several people I've encountered like to say that, well, the world of supplements, quote unquote, a broad term, right? Supplements are all crap. They're all snake oil. Well, first off, no, that's wrong. It's just completely false. But even if the majority of them are snake oil, and I'm not going to say the majority are, a lot of them are, to some extent, or a lot of them don't quite do what they claim to do, you still have to look at them on a case-by-case basis. Some have a significant amount of evidence to support them. Particularly, I emphasize a lot of my own study on sports nutrition, performance enhancement, and how certain types of specific supplements that have been studied can also affect certain disease states, like spinal cord injuries, neural pathologies, things like that, neuropathy. I'm looking into that. And there is some evidence there. But because people have a certain image in their head, especially people that have never studied the field, they're very quick to say, oh, all supplements are completely garbage, they're all a waste of money. And it really puzzles me that a person who may have a decent education overall, but who has not spent a lot of time studying this particular field, would be so quick to dismiss the entire field. So I guess my point is, it's very important, if you value yourself as a skeptic, if you consider yourself to be science-minded, truly, you've got to slow down. Don't be so quick to have a knee-jerk reaction to something and say, oh, this field is completely crap, or this field is completely amazing, right? Don't give in to the temptation to use buzzwords. Don't talk in bullet points, or talking points, or headlines. The truth is almost always more nuanced than that. And if you think of yourself as intellectually honest and not intellectually lazy, you should be willing to have those discussions. Be willing to ask questions. And don't accept something unless there's evidence. But be willing to look and see if there's actually evidence before you condemn something. So I wanted to say that. Anyway, take it or leave it.